Welcome to Your Spiritual Besties Podcast. I'm Lauren Ledoux.
And I'm Rashida McCoy. We're here to laugh, cry, learn, and connect with you.
We discuss anything and everything from our everyday lives to the magical, mystical, and woo-woo.
So take a deep breath, grab a cup of tea,
and set an intention to receive, because you deserve it, bestie. Hi, Rashida.
Hey, Lauren. How is it going?
I am, I don't know. We're talking about 2024 today, and just at this moment, I was like, whoa, this is the future. Like, doesn't that seem like I was born in 1984. Like 2024 seems like there should be, I don't know. We should all be like flying around in cars or something.
There should be so much going on. But I mean, when we think about it, I feel like a lot of like technological advancement happened as we were like coming up. So we're kind of in that like period, I feel like, of like waiting for like that next like huge thing.
Yeah.
Like the huge thing. I don't know what the huge thing is going to be. I mean, am I correct in thinking that, did I see something where people are going to get to like go to space in the moon? Has that happened already?
Yeah.
That did happen?
I don't know about the moon, but like definitely in space, like
It was just
commercial
space?
flights to space. Yeah, it costs like $1 million.
Well,
if you want to go to
obviously,
space.
I will not be doing that, but
I'll go a few times, I think.
You think you'll go a few times? I don't know.
Maybe with astral projection.
Okay, you have me right there. I can totally do that. I don't know how I feel about being in a tin box in a vacuum. It's gorgeous to look at from my grounded space, but I don't know. I have to think about that. My daughter's the adventurous one. She'll probably be the one to like, Mommy, I'm off. I'm off for the weekend.
Our little Sagittarius babies will
Oh
go
my God, they are. They will. Oh, so what's going on today, Lauren? What do we have planned?
Well, I'm so excited because we have a guest on who is going to bring us the lowdown for 2024. So today we have with us Caitlyn, and Caitlyn is an astrologer and channel specializing in the higher light realms and galactic astrology. Through her company, Ninth House Rising, she offers one-to-one readings, mentorship, and events. Her passion is showing people their soul contracts, archetypes, and karmic stories as gifts and guiding lights to the current lifetime on Earth. She works closely with the angelic realms, benevolent star people councils, and ascended masters in our universe. Caitlyn, welcome.
Welcome.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, Rashida. Thank you for having me. It always feels so funny when someone reads your bio. You're like, is that me? Is that me?
I know. I've been in that situation a lot recently doing podcast interviews for my book. And every time even though I'm proud of like who I am and what I've done, I still feel a little bit like, oh, this is so weird.
It is kind of, you're like, oh, whoa. But it's great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you both for having me.
You're welcome. We're so happy you're here. We're really excited to get into what you've brought for us today. But before we do that, we ask the same question every single interview, and we would love to know your perspective. So what is spirituality to you?
Wow, that's such a good question. Spirituality for me is all about the path back to your infinite self. And so taking that power back and knowing that it's not these external forces or these beautiful, I grew up in the US, and so we have a lot of, Protestant and puritanical and Catholic churches all around. And so, but for anyone in the world, whatever kind of effigies you're seeing of these godlike beings, that's inside you too. And I think that's been my really sort of adulthood of spirituality, has been realizing like that's inside of me and I'm a piece of that. And so my spirituality has really been finding my way back to being a piece of the divine myself and the accountability that comes with that, right? And so it's been a really interesting ride so far, and we'll see where life takes us next, right?
Yeah, I really love that answer. And I think that's so true. I think there's like a certain maturity in realizing that the divine is within us. Yes, we have all these outer depictions of what that might be, but truly it's just like a mirror to what's inside. And also, what's inside is so much more expansive and untouchable in a way than what we perceive, I think. So,
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you. So we are going to jump right in, I think, today. And I know at first you want to kind of do a little review of 2023 before we go into 2024. And I think that's a great idea because 2023 was a heck of a year. Wow. Like we're happy to cross the threshold, I think, into a different year right now, although it had its beauty too. So I think we'll just let you jump right in.
I love it. And you two know me. Like, interrupt when you find something interesting. This is super. This has been the year for me of the statement, what just happened? What just happened? What just happened? All year, I felt like I was saying that. And it's been really interesting because 2023 was really the year of two big astrological things. I would say it was the year of retrogrades and it was the year of Venus. And everyone, I think, we're going to keep it pretty high level from an astrological perspective. There are crazy in-depth, wonderful podcasts and books and astrologers that you can look into for the science behind all of this. But I really want to talk about the thematics and really the narratives that are pervasive on our planet right now that we're seeing reflected back at us through the planets because we're all operating under the same energy. And, we had Mars and Mercury retrograde that kicked off 2023. We had our 4 annual Mercury retrogrades. We never escape. We have them every single year. But we had this huge Venus retrograde from July 22nd through September 3rd in the sign of Leo. And then just to sprinkle it on top, every other outer planet from Jupiter all the way to Pluto had a retrograde sometime between May and the end of the year. So it was just this year of revisions, because that's really what retrograding means. When people hear like, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, any retrograding planet anywhere is just revisiting, revisioning, repositioning itself. And for me, it was really interesting. 2023 was really about the revisiting of how our enemy lines have been drawn on this planet over the last 2,500 years. And this was really interesting from a Venus perspective because Venus traversed her light or her path of both light and darkness through this year. She is the morning and the evening star. She is the brightest planet in our sky. She is the one that reflects that beautiful young energy of our sun the most. And the archetype of Venus is the divine feminine. So if you just think about that narrative for a second, that the divine feminine was traversing both a path of light and darkness through 2023, through both of her polarities. She didn't have to be the virginal. She didn't have to be the weakened. She didn't have to be the damsel. She didn't have to be the evil witch. She didn't have to be all these archetypes that the feminine has come to represent on our planet. She didn't come in as a single side of those. She came in and walked both a forward and backward motion on our planet, showing us what the divine feminine can and should be in her wholeness. And I'm just interested in that. Like, I'm interested in, like, that has felt so wild to me in my physically female body this year. And just coming to terms with the fact that I don't have to be gooey and soft and feminine and light and always light and love and sparkles. And, that there is this like deep darkness, and not darkness as in negativity, but darkness as in like the black night of soil and the black night of decomposition. And that is like the gift of the divine feminine, right? Is like, we are the keepers of life, but we're also the keepers of death, right? And that portal walks through us. And that's what happened this year. This was the year of Venus. That was the year that she came and walked this path. I don't know if either of you have kind of connected with your femininity in a different way this year.
Well, I mean, I just had a book come out that was about embodying your inner goddess. So yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yes.
And, this is something, these are a lot of the conversations I've been having, not necessarily about the planetary aspect, but just about like what the sacred feminine actually is. Like we just had a
Mhm.
few episodes ago talking about that, and then another one talking about my book. But it is this wholeness, right? It's not about being one specific way. It's about embodying all of these different qualities, the destroyer and the nurturer, right?
Mhm.
And everything in between, because there are a lot of different qualities that are the sacred feminine. So I love it gives me chills thinking about Venus as the embodiment of that because I've always thought of Venus as a her and, as this goddess planet, but like really hadn't put it together in this way. So it does feel extremely potent and it resonates quite a bit with me. What about you, Rashida?
Oh, yeah, definitely the same. Like as Caitlin, you were talking about, it was taking me back to the episode that Lauren and I were talking about with the divine feminine and how it's not just this, you know, pretty beautiful made up version. The divine feminine is all aspects of ourselves, even the ugly pieces, even the dark and dirty pieces that we don't see in society as being part of what feminine is. So I love the fact that
Mm.
you were just painting that picture for us of how 2023 really is like the light and the dark, and it's all of that, and it happens at the same time, and it can be this or like it's everything. So yeah, it definitely resonates with me too.
I love that. And, it's really interesting because Venus hosted both of the eclipses in the month of October. So we had the solar eclipse in Libra. Libra is all about equality, creativity, and balance between polarities. And solar eclipses are all about new beginnings. So, this new beginning that was ushering in what's to come for 2024 was hosted by Venus in her sign of balance. And then our lunar eclipse, which was lunar eclipses are typically about endings, was in Taurus, which is also a Venusian sign. And this was all about, Taurus is about security, comfort, home. And that was the ending that Venus hosted. And she was hosting this new beginning of equality, creativity, and balance. And that's super interesting to me looking at 2024 because 2024 is the year that our planet will be flush with fresh blood, fresh energies, fresh perspectives on how our infinite souls have incarnated into this cellular technology here on this planet. And 2024 is super, super interesting because aside from a little quick Mercury retrograde at the very beginning that ends right on January 1, we're going to go through the first 5 months of 2024 without a single planet in retrograde. That is extremely rare because our outer planets retrograde for months at a time, all the time. So to have this year of retrogrades, this year of revisions, this year of repositioning, and to walk into 2024 in the Gregorian calendar and really just have this 5 months of rapid forward progression, we are going to see a lot of fast movement at the beginning of 2024 because we are going to charge into this next year unimpeded by any of that energy that's trying to look back or re-understand. And I don't know if you guys feel this as well. I feel like time is moving faster than
I
I
was
remember it
just
moving.
talking about this with my grandmother. I told her, I said, I remember being a kid and thinking like time could just not happen fast enough. Like the weekends were longer, the months were longer, the years. Oh my God, let's not talk about a year forever. And as an adult, I'm like, a year is nothing. Nothing. And even being more conscious now than I was, let's say 5 years ago, it still feels like it's just so fast. It's just so fast. So I agree with you, Caitlin. Like I was just talking about that.
Yeah, I have two. I was just talking to my husband. I was like, because we're recording this at the end of November. I was like, what happened? Like, did November actually happen? Like, it just flew by. And same with October. And yeah, it does feel like things are speeding up for sure.
And even what I remember time being 5 years ago, like I was still an adult. I still had a job. I didn't have midterms or any of these things in like your school year that feel like they take forever and kill you slowly. And still, time just seems to be moving so fast. And that's what we're really going to feel for those first 5 or 6 months of 2024. We're going to have a lot of forward motion. And I love some like branding. I love a narrative story. And when I was kind of meditating on 2024 and looking at everything that's going to happen next year, really kind of the title that my guides gave me was it was that 2024 is the year of Aquarius, which I think is really interesting because Pluto has been dancing with Aquarius since March of 2023. And there's so much fascinating stuff about that. Oh my gosh, I could talk for 2 hours just about Pluto and Aquarius. But Aquarius is super interesting because it's an air sign, even though its symbol is the water bearer. But it's cardinal, it's all about communication, but it's the sign of the water bearer in that Aquarian energy is constantly pouring fresh energy over the earth, washing away the old, but watering that which will grow. And that is why Aquarians are typically the sign of rebels, of sort of people with really intense social causes, of sort of these political activists. And the activists in any right, like you can be a spiritual activist, you can be anything, but that's really what Aquarius is about, is fresh energy, that refreshing of the information and the conversation and the activity that's happening here on our planet. And it's very much the energy of protest, of intellect, of disruption. And the mantra of the sign of Aquarius is I know this to be right. I know that this should change. I know to recognize a human being as another soul worthy of being here on this planet. And that's really the energy of 2024 is all about Aquarius, and a little bit it's like Saturnine energy as well, because Saturn rules Aquarius. It's Saturn's masculine sign. And Saturn, for those of you that are going through your Saturn return who have your Saturn in Pisces, Saturn's going to be hosted in Pisces for the year, which is the sign that immediately follows Aquarius. And we're going to have Pluto, the god of death, dancing in this house of Aquarius. He started the dance in March of 2023, but he's really going to start his trajectory through Aquarius in 2024. And Saturn's going to be hosting Pluto from Pisces, which is the sign of the spiritualist, the seeker, the dreamer. I mean, Rashida, you have huge placements in Pisces, and Lauren, you do as well. And that's what this year is going to be about, is the grounding of these celestial energies that have been building momentum through the souls that have come here with contracts in the last 50 years on reversing the patriarchal, the oppressive, the imperialist orders that have been in place on this planet for 2,500 years. There are so many of us on this planet now with contracts to disrupt those. And 2024 is the year that that's going to start to happen. And you've probably seen rumblings already. Like this year was quite unsettled. The first 5 months and rest of 2024 is really going to have a fresh insurgence of twisting that which we knew to be the status quo, particularly for the last 200 years or so, is going to get flipped on its head next year.
Wow, that's so interesting. I'd love to know, so like, what is someone who, because I always like to come at all of this from like a new like lens, like not really knowing too much about like astrology. So someone who's like getting into astrology and like, okay, 5 months, the first 5 months, things are going to be moving really fast. What would that feel like to somebody who might not be like as tapped in or understanding of what might be going on?
I love that. So the first 5 months are going to feel, we already talked about, they're going to feel fast, right? Like time is going to seem to move really quickly. Also, anything in your external life that you have been working on, whether it's at work, it's a home renovation project, it's maybe you want to get pregnant with your partner, maybe you're working on helping your parents who are aging into their next phase of life, maybe any of these kind of projects that you might have in your life, all of those are going to start moving really quickly because all of the energies are going to be in forward motion. So everything's going to be orchestrating together to push those energies forward towards their highest and best resolution. So I'm not here to say that like everything you dreamt of happening is going to happen exactly as you dreamt of it, because we never know the best outcome, right? And other people have contracts that might conflict with our desired outcome. But what I can tell you is that we're going to get through the phase of building a project, of starting a project, all the way through the results very fast. And so you're going to see that in every aspect of your life. And it's a really good time also if you've wanted to kickstart a fresh piece of your story, right? Like if you've been trying to exit a relationship, if you've been trying to start a new relationship, if you've been trying to start a fresh spiritual journey, if you've been trying to start a new journey with your health in some way, if you have been thinking about moving to a new place, if you have been thinking about anything that is net new to your life experience, January next year through May is going to get that process moving in a very, very fast way. And I think that's going to be our really like human body experience of that first half of 2024.
Great, wonderful. I really appreciated that. So, also too, as you were talking about this, you were saying, I'm not saying that all your dreams are going to come true, but there is going to be a lot of momentum with things happening so fast. Sometimes, for me, sometimes I get like very like anxious to make decisions, or maybe even
Mm.
stuck, or I try not to do the wrong thing. How best could someone use like discernment, I think, at this time to know what is the right thing to use this energy towards? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
It does. I think, and Lauren, I'd be interested in your opinion on this as well, because I think you always speak to this super well, which is you already know the things that your life, your contract, your soul are kind of urging you to change because they're on your mind. And, for example, for me, a big one has been my physicality. I have had a lot of years of really intense shifts from an energetic perspective, just coming into alignment with what my soul is trying to get done with this lifetime. And it asked for a lot of my energy. I was really low energy. I required a lot of sleep, a lot of time away. And now that period is coming to an end. And there's a part of me that like doesn't really want it to, because I kind of like, I like the like space I've built into my life for rest and for all this stuff. And it's like, but I can feel it. I can feel it almost for me. Everybody's physical sensations and emotional sensations are a bit different. But just to give you an example, mine feels like someone's breathing on the back of my neck. That's how mine feels, is when there's something that my infinite self is saying, it's time, let's move, let's take a plunge, let's do something scary, let's take the first step. She always says, like, let's go on an adventure. You got to take the first step. You got to like step outside your front door. For me, that manifests as like I can almost feel it as a someone like breathing on the back of my neck. And so I think that's like what do you do with that energy? I would argue, Rashida, that people already know. There, those seeds of what wants to move and the energy that wants to flush and the energy that wants to get moving, those seeds are already there. So that's what I would say is like those things that you have an inkling of, like, is this quite right for me? Could I make this change? I'm kind of scared of it. Those are the things that you say yes to and you get moving on and just take that first step. And
Yeah.
the energies are going to line up for you.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're really speaking to like, obviously though, I'm about to say intuition as well. Like people really stepping into and tapping into and listening to those intuitive hits will greatly benefit. I mean, it will always, but especially now at the beginning of the year, will really greatly benefit them and utilizing that momentum for their highest self.
Yeah, I think what Caitlyn's speaking to about these intuitive hits is that for me, I think of it as like a flittering fairy. That's what I call it. And sometimes I'm like, no, 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 get away. But the longer you wait, the louder it gets, essentially, to where it feels almost too uncomfortable not to act, even if it's something that you don't, that doesn't feel comfortable or that you don't quote unquote want to do, right? Like it's like, okay, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. Let's move, let's jump and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's really interesting too because, Pluto is the one that's really making Aquarius sing in 2024 and he kind of danced a little bit with Aquarius in 2023. But Pluto, if you look back in Greek mythology, was always the god of the unseen, the god of the underworld. But all of these hero stories were a lot about having to go into the underworld to retrieve your treasure or the thing that you needed to heal your loved one or you needed to claim the throne from the evil king or all of these things. And Pluto gets talked about with kind of I would say bi-directional energy, both yin and yang, but like I love seeing Pluto as Ereshkigal, who is the goddess of the underworld, the Sumerian goddess of the underworld, and she has the 7 gates of the underworld, which is they talk about the 7 gates of childbirth as well that you go through to retrieve your child's soul from the other side. And there's something about Pluto's nature that sort of demands that we embark on this hero's journey and that we say come along with me to our fears and to those things that scare us, and we say come with me on this journey because I'm going to face you down anyway and I'm going to go get this thing. And that's what's happening in 2024 is like Pluto is sitting in the seat of Aquarius, the rebel, the dissenter, the free thinker, and says come and get this fresh thing, come and get this thing that will remake you into who you want to be for this next epoch of the Earth's history, because we are alive at one of the most energetically significant times on this planet in the last 30,000 years. And if you look at whether you like human design or Kabbalah or any of the, astrology, all of them will say the energies that are aligning at this time have been unprecedented for tens of thousands of years. What we are going to bear witness to over the next 5 years on this planet will be more from a celestial perspective than we've probably seen in the last 500 years. So that's what Pluto's demanding of us next year is take the step, go on the journey, come to me, face your fears and retrieve that which you are seeking so that you can be free. And that's that Pluto and Aquarius energy.
So I'm trying to formulate a question, but I'll just speak my mind with where it is right now. Everything you're saying, it reminds me a bit of like the Dance of the 7 Veils, where like each veil that gets removed is an illusion that's being, that we're shining light on, like it's being unveiled, right? And we're seeing like the truth. Would you say it's similar to that? And I also know at points in my life where the veils have been lifted, sometimes it just leaves me in a state of like, what the fuck, right? Like, I don't always know, like, I'm not always like, and I'm going to get spurred into action. I'm just going to be like, whoa, everything is different than I thought it was. And I need to take a breath almost. Like with all of this illusion being shed, right? And this like journey into the underworld in a way, what do we do?
It's
I don't
such
know
an
if that question
interesting
makes sense.
question. No, it does, but it's like, I think remembering, for me, it's all about remembering my agency. Like that's one of my favorite claims that, I do my mantras every morning. And one is like, I'm a free and sovereign being. I own my power. I own my light. I say that every single morning. I got that from Steve Nobel, who has beautiful led guided meditations on YouTube. And all of it is about owning your agency and knowing that even when I am standing still, I'm making a choice. I am making a choice to not move yet, to wait for information, to wait for that, for me, tickle at the back of my neck, for you, the fairy that comes to whisper in your ear. You know, Rashida, you'll have to give us the like beautiful intuition metaphor that you use. And so I think knowing also, I think it's been really beautiful. At least I've seen a big change in my community over the last 5 years or so of knowing that like it's not all supposed to be easy. Like things being easy doesn't mean that they're right. And things being challenging and things making you feel a little bit of fear doesn't mean they're wrong. And being okay with saying like, thank you, fear. I see you. I see you trying to take care of me. I see you really being scared about taking this next step. Thank you for loving me and trying to keep me safe. I am safe. I'm going to take this step. We're going to go together. Hold my hand. You can come with me, but we're going to do it. We can do it. But I think just knowing as these veils get lifted, and I love that sacred number 7, like the 7 gates of the underworld, the 7 veils, the 7, physical chakras, so many beautiful aspects to that 7th dimensional energy. And just knowing that even if you find your place at a crossroads and you're not quite sure where to go yet, that's agency too, to decide to wait and wait until you feel your fairy, wait until you feel the tickle at the back of your neck on which way to go. You have agency in that choice, and waiting's a choice as well. So I think that's like the what do we do with the idea of like Pluto waiting for us with this gift for us next year. And we have to go through those 7 gates to get there. It's okay to sometimes take a breath. It's okay to make the choice and have the agency of like, I'm going to give myself a beat and I'm going to wait for that tickle that I know is my infinite self telling me, now we go forward.
Yeah, I love that answer so much. Thank you. You're right. It is a choice. And I think about, whenever big things are happening, there is a lot of temptation to go with the crowd, so to speak, and to buy into the group think. So I like this call to really tune into your own inner voice and intuition and to let that guide you as an individual through, because I think, a lot of times we act before we know all the information or before we like even know what our inner compass is saying. And that's dangerous, right? It's dangerous when it's not based in truth. So I appreciate that.
Rashida, you never gave us your little intuition metaphor. Is it a fairy? Is it someone breathing down your neck? Tell us what yours sounds like, feels like.
It's like a passing whisper. Like if I'm not focused, and not even focused, like I'm like listening for it. If I'm not attuned to like my inner voices, I miss it. There have been so many times where I describe it as like somebody just says something, like there's somebody's passing by saying something to me, and it's like, oh, like what? That is like my intuition, and I don't know if that's like a great thing or not, because I'm always feeling like, wait, what was that? But
one more time. Sorry, wait. Could you repeat that?
But and it's one of those things like if I just like stop and like, oh, that's what I heard. Oh, okay, I see. Or like if I'm too busy running around the house doing whatever it is to be a human mom, getting all the things done, and I'm not like, I feel like our intuition comes to us at all times. It doesn't matter. For me, it all usually hits during those busy moments. And it's like one of those times where it's like, you know what? This is the moment that it's telling me to slow down and listen and take stock. And if I don't, I totally miss it. Obviously I can sit in meditation. I can like, get everything I can and pull everything that way. But a lot of times my intuition comes to me and just like talks to me off the wall when I'm just out and about doing things like in the house or anything like that. So yeah, it's like that passing like person saying something that you're like, wait, what did you say? That's my intuition.
I love that. You have like a chatty intuition that just drives by.
Rashida's a big human design fan, and I love that she She talks about sacral response quite a bit too. And I think that's an important reminder. And I do think it's the way things are going. Like, there's a reason that we have all these tools out there now to be able to self-regulate, because when we do that, we're able to actually listen to our own body and the wisdom that it holds. And I think that's a really important thing to do, being connected to our root chakra, being connected to the earth, and being able to like not just be in our heads trying to listen for this voice, but to like really feel into like what does the body need right now and what is it telling us. So thanks, Rashida.
I love that.
Yes.
Rashida, human design. Tell me about your profile. What?
So, oh, man, I want to say 4/6, my man Jen 4/6. My human design, it's like not super complete. I think I've spoken this before when we had our episode, because I don't know my birth time. So I know like the main things, but like my arrows and all the stuff, I don't know if they're completely accurate, but I feel into that, having a sacral response. I think one of my I can't exactly remember which one it was, because I decided not to get too deep, obviously, because I don't know if it's true or not. But when I got my readings, she was like, "You're very organized." And I was like, that's wrong.
That's false.
I'm gonna tell you that one. That's where that time would have come in. But yeah, man, Jen 4/6
I love it
profile.
because the root chakra is ruled by Saturn. And so Saturn is the god of time. He's sort of the Lord Father of the zodiac. And Saturn's in Pisces for all of 2024. And he's really I call Saturn like the ruler of the third dimension. And so it makes sense that he rules the root chakra, right? Because he's like, how does this celestial form, how does this celestial energetic pattern get grounded onto this planet? And so just to give you a little like astrological spin of kind of that root chakra and how it looks, I'm a 5/1 projector, a splenic projector, Rashida. And so it's like super interesting. Just I love learning about other people's profiles, and I'm so very light on human design. Have not like dived 20,000 leagues under the sea, but I just love it. I love those like little tiny insights into even just like a man gen profile or a reflector profile, or I just think it's so I love that insight into people's contracts. I think that's why I like astrology. Like I love the
Mhm.
stars. I'm fascinated by, you know, the James Webb Telescope pictures, and I work a lot with star family energy and all that kind of stuff. Love it. But like what I actually like about astrology is how deep into a person's core tenets I can see by just seeing how the planetary energies were impacting their soul's entrance onto this planet.
Well, yeah, I think for me that was like the biggest thing when we did our last astrology reading last year. Um Knowing like that is exactly what astrology is. It is like how like your literal first breath, breathing the energies of these celestial beings into your body, how it has imprinted upon you. Like seeing that, having that, I was just like, man, that makes so much sense. And you're right, with human design, I don't get too deep into it either, but I love using it as a tool with my clients, because I remember when I got my first reading, it was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And I love the fact that human design, it's not telling you like how you need to be. It's like a guide, like it's your blueprint, for being, which is a little different than some of the other personality type of things. But yeah, human design is amazing. Like astrology, even though for me, astrology is like such a big, um, it's such a big concept that I'm still like wrapping my head around. So like having that like foreknowledge of, okay, astrology, my reading, my design, it's just like what my imprint, essentially what the planets are doing when I was born, when I took my first breath, how I breathe them into my body, and what that means for me is really how I look at astrology. But I love how we can, even like looking forward. So we're doing this reading right now in November, and walking us through looking forward of what the planets are doing, how we can interact with them, what it's going to feel like. I just think it's amazing and such a great like guide for us. It's never, I don't think it's ever like something that we have to do, right? It's more of like a guide and what to look for and how to like understand what we might be experiencing.
Mm. Yeah, thanks, Rashida. I think I want to ask now, and hopefully I didn't just miss it, but what are we looking at for the second half of 2024? Did we go into it?
We haven't really talked a ton about the second half of 2024. So I'm looking at my notes here because the second half of 2024, again, we're still really close in sort of the Aquarian energy. Pluto and Saturn are our big players next year. So Saturn is going to remain in Pisces for the entire year. And then we obviously have Pluto that's going to be dancing back and forth between Aquarius and Capricorn, but moving really forward into Aquarius, should retrograde starting around May and then kind of move forward into Aquarius towards the end of the year. And I think, you know, we're having all of these peaks and plateaus, really tapping into the Akashic records and just the information that's coming through around the year 2027. I'm not sure how much y'all have kind of heard. I just feel like I'm hearing the year 2027 everywhere from, channelers and astrologers and human design and even, big religious leaders. 2027 is kind of such a big year for us. And so there's a few pieces of this energetic profile that are really setting us up for that really intense energy of 2027. And that is this Pluto into Aquarius. It's Saturn spending the entire year in Pisces. And then we're also going to have Jupiter. Jupiter is our planet of expansion. It's the planet of higher learning. It can be the planet of spirituality. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Jupiter also rules Pisces. And so it is that expansive energy. And Jupiter is going to move from Taurus into Gemini. So Jupiter loves being in Taurus. Jupiter and Venus kind of play very nicely together. And Taurus is the house of planet Earth, of home, security, really that kind of earth goddess energy. That's very much Taurus. And Jupiter's been sitting there for all of 2024. And when we look into 2025, Jupiter's really going to move into Gemini. And Gemini is, of course, the sign of the twins, right? The sign of polarity, the sign of all these things that we've been talking about, right? And Gemini is ruled by Mercury, Mercury being in like the ancient Egyptian, the Greek god Hermes, but the ancient Egyptian god Thoth, which is the god of wisdom. And Mercury rules your throat chakra. And so Gemini is this masculine sign of Mercury, and it's very much about the mental, the political, the conversational, the witty, the funny, it's that very like throat chakra to mind connection. And that's where Jupiter's moving. And so this is really interesting in the context of what everybody else is doing next year, which is Saturn is staunchly sitting in Pisces, the sign of the spiritualist, the sign of the dreamer, which means our seventh chakra, our root chakra, is sitting there in that house of Pisces, bringing down those dreams, bringing down the energy of spirit into the earthly third dimension, right? And then we have Pluto, the god of death, the holder of our treasure on our hero's journey, moving through Aquarius, the sign of the free thinker, while Jupiter, our planet of expansion, is really going to be traversing the sign of the twins, the sign of communication, the sign of mental acuity. And so there's going to be a lot that happens in the public sphere in the second half of 2024. So we're going to have all of this forward motion at the beginning of the first, those first 5-6 months of 2024. And the second half of 2024 is really going to be about earthing the energetic shifts that happen over that first half of the year. And it's going to be a lot. We're going to see a lot in politics. We're going to see a lot, I think, in world religions. We're going to see a lot. I mean, we are all aware of how many conflicts we have on this planet right now, especially the ones that are very much focused on by the Western media, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Israel, Palestine, all of those conflicts are going to move faster, become more political. And of course, they call it the slingshot effect, right? Things have to go backward in order to go forward further. And that's what we're going to really see right here at the end of 2023. We're at that backward mark. We're going to kind of see that forward motion through the first half of 2024, but that's all going to land in the third dimension. It's going to land in our earthly experience in the second half of 2024. And that Jupiter in Gemini is going to be all about us becoming aware, our mental bodies, our physical bodies being able to actually pick up on, even the people who aren't in tune with their intuition, who don't sit down and ground and meditate every day, who focus a lot on what's happening in the manic logos of the third dimension, even they will not be able to escape kind of the information that's going to flow in and expand with us in the second half of 2024.
Woo.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, okay.
It's big. It's a big year, you guys. And like numerology, it's an 8 year, right? So it's going to be a fortuitous and abundant and, important year for all of us.
So what would be your one biggest piece of advice for 2024?
Biggest piece of advice for 2024 would be brave. Be brave. Do the things that scare you. Take that first step. Own your agency. Own your sovereignty. You are a free and sovereign being. Don't let the mythology or the expectations of what could happen, which are just imaginary circumstances, keep you from hearing the guidance of your infinite self, because next year is the year to go for it. It is the year where these energies are asking us to lean the F in and walk the walk that, and talk the talk and own our adventures. And those just 2 words will be my words for 2024. Be brave.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important to note that requires like feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And also, I love, talking about our own projections and anxieties and imagining worst case scenarios. For me, like when I catch myself doing that, I think it's an invitation and an opportunity to visualize the beauty, right? And to visualize the heaven on earth. Like, what do I want to see? What do I want to manifest in reality? And I think we all have to remember how powerful we are, right? Like, are we going to focus on what could go wrong? Or are we going to focus on what could go right? And then take all the actions to get there, even when it's really effing hard.
For sure.
I love that. Well, and actually, so I channeled a few messages for you and Rashida. So I wanted to just give you guys just a taste of kind of some of the messages that are coming in from your guides about 2024 for you. And Rashida, it was really interesting, because we don't know your birth time. So we don't have your ascendant, and your ascendant and your moon is really where that can change a lot over the course of a day. But the other big planets, we know where they were. We know where they were within a 24-hour period. And what really stood out to me in your chart when I was channeling this was that you have Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter in Pisces. And Saturn's going to hang out in Pisces all year next year. We are going to have Lord Father Time sitting in the Pisces house all year long, sitting on top of your Sun, Mercury, and your Jupiter. And this is what your team had for you, Rashida. Said, this sign of the dreamer, the spiritualist, the seeker is central to who you are and how you express yourself to the world. This next year will be all about grounding these wandering parts of your soul here in the third dimension, about unearthing the gems you discover on your journeys here in the flesh and blood realms of humanity. You are a speaker of the kingdoms of light, and this podcast is one of the many ways these keys find their way to your planet. This next year, Saturn will press you into form and will provide a foundation for these downloads so needed here on this planet at this time.
Wow. Thank you.
I just love that. Like, and a lot
Yeah.
of people who know astrology lightly, deeply, there's a lot of fear around Saturn. It's classified as a malefic planet. It's cold and dry, all these things. I love Saturn. I have Saturn opposing my natal sun. And so Saturn is a really big part of my story. And I think we forget that like Saturn is the creator of the third dimension. He is the one that holds the boundaries that allow us to experience this physical experience. And Saturn's going to transit and and conjoin with your sun, your Mercury, and your Jupiter this year. And so you are going to deeply feel the need to bring your gifts here. Take them out of your beautiful heart, take them out of your beautiful dream space, take them out of your ethereal body and ground them right here where we can see them and touch them and hear them. And with your Mercury here, I mean, what you say has so much information and so much upgrade content that you deliver, not just with your words, right? But with your tenor, your vibration. It's really beautiful.
Thank you so much, Caitlyn. That was beautiful. I
Okay,
got
Lauren.
chills.
I love it. Lauren, are you ready for yours?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So Pisces was all in my business when I was reading for y'all. And I think it's just because we have Saturn sitting there all of next year. And Lauren, you have Venus, your moon, and Lilith in Pisces in the ninth house. And the ninth house is the house of spirituality, expansion, higher study. And so to have Pisces, the sign of the dreamer, over that ninth house of spirituality, expansion, higher study, I mean, we all know, Lauren, that fits very well. But for you to have Venus, your divine feminine archetype, for you to have Lilith, which is where you feel shame and where you can find darkness, and also your moon, your physical and emotional body, all in this ninth house. Next year is a big year for you, particularly around these themes. This was the message they had for you. There is a dark priestess with the alchemy of her power focused in body, in emotion, in water, embodied, that sings in your soul contract in this lifetime. She is being called to earth over the next year, more than she ever has been before. You're being asked to don the robes of these shadows and moments of brilliance that incarnate in the feminine flesh of earth. You are the keeper of light, of life, and of death. You must see things through the door of darkness before that vacuum can be filled with light. 2024 is the funeral year of many of the energies that have enjoyed control on this planet for the last 2,500 years.
Wow. Okay, I'll don my black.
I couldn't, it was so beautiful. And I love how both of those readings are Pisces. Both of those readings are Piscean. Both of those readings are Saturnine, but they're completely different because y'all have two different sets of archetypes, two different sets of players playing in Piscean energy in your charts. And, you know, Rashida, yours was all about sort of this who I am and my voice and my message and my ministry on this planet has to show up next year. And Lauren, for you, it was like there is this, I don't know how much y'all know the Sumerian goddesses of Inanna and Ereshkigal, but Inanna is the goddess of love and war, and she has a lot to do with Venus, and she has a lot to do with the Piscean galactic formations, the celestial formations. And then Ereshkigal was the goddess of the underworld. And so Lauren, for you to have Venus and Lilith, and then the humanoid sign of the feminine, which is the moon, for you to have all three of these stacked in Pisces in the ninth house next year is Lauren, they didn't want you to be afraid by the title of like the dark priestess. It's not like the dark fantasy that we like write in, young adult novels here. It's like darkness as in yin energy, darkness as in fecundity, darkness as in fertility, darkness as in there must be darkness to be light. You cannot have light without the darkness. And so, like, I will stand in the middle and I will fight for both. And it was just, gosh, it was beautiful. I wish sometimes I could paint or draw or something just to like show people what I see when I go in and do these readings and how they show up for me. But hopefully y'all got at least a little idea of just the like beauty's not enough of a word, like the magnificence, the weight of what they showed me for you two in 2024.
Oh yeah, I definitely felt that. For
Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I definitely, before we got on this call, I'm feeling a little fuzzy with 2024, but what you're saying, like it's been in the conversations I've been having, and it's all about dark and light and integration and being in the gray. And so it's all making sense. And I know, showing up that way in an embodied way is a process. So get ready.
Yeah, well, you'll be dancing with the darkness next year, Lauren, in the most amazing way.
Yeah. I want to add to this just came up that you're talking about the underworld earlier. And to many of us, that can sound like a really scary place and a scary thing. And, we all did the soul reading method training together and we spend time in the underworld there. And it is a nourishing place full of magic and fun. Infertility, like it's a really, for me, like I was always surprised because we would do these meditations and Nikki, our teacher, would be like, you can go to the upper world or underworld. And my soul always wanted to go under.
Mine did too.
Yeah, it just felt good, like being covered, like sitting in the grass and being in the forest with the fairies and with all the creatures that are there. And I'll say it's a nourishing place to not be scared of, and that there is just as much truth there as in the upper world, that they both hold so much value and they both just have different frequencies, right? And they both heal.
Wow, I love that, Lauren. Oh, yeah, it's true. And I mean, I think there's this like skeptical part of me that's always like, who benefits from that seed of a story making me afraid of the underworld? Who benefits from me not embracing that half of my being, that half of my power, that half of my cosmic womb, my connection to the cosmic womb? And it's when you do not reach into your darkness, you can't reach as far into the light. You can only reach as far into the light as you've been brave enough to reach down into the darkness. And I always have that skepticism of like, who benefits from me not being as powerful as I could be? Who spun that story? And do I believe them? And when I finally get brave enough to be like, I just want to go see it for myself. The underworld for me, Nikki gave us all these beautiful images. But for me, the one I see the most when I go under is a night ocean, is like what they show me. And gosh, it's incredible, just as incredible as it is to go up into the realms of light.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been also part of a lot of my conversations lately in talking about this darkness, because as I go through my own story, I know that a lot of what I would consider to be my superpowers now were once my shadows, right? They were the things that I stuffed down or that I was told weren't presentable or weren't holy, or whatever it might be, or that don't fit into society. So it's so worthwhile diving into the shadows. And I also think that, like we were talking about intuition earlier, our shadows can also point us to our desires. So especially when we're talking about, the less what we would maybe call it savory, or that I don't like low vibe necessarily for emotions, but diving into some of the more emotions that we don't want to look at as much, like anger and jealousy, for instance, they always point us to what we actually truly desire, right? Like maybe I'm jealous because I desire what this person has, and it's not that they don't deserve it. It's just that, like, okay, this is pointing me more to my path. Like, how do I align myself with this? Or maybe I feel anger because it needs to be transmuted into this like sacred action. So, yeah, I think as I've been really contemplating all of this lately, I'm just, yeah, really seeing how I don't want to say there's no good or bad, because I don't think people should kill or oppress others or anything like that. But when it comes to like our wholeness, there is no good or bad. It's all part of the same It's all part of the same soul. It's all part of the same system. And all of it should be welcome to the table.
Mm. Wow, that was beautiful, Lauren.
Thanks. This has been such an enlightening episode. And I want to ask if there's anything else that you wanted to share, Caitlyn.
I think that was it for me, Lauren. Just, next year is going to be fast moving and it's going to bring about a lot of change. And we're going to see a lot of that in the public sphere. We're going to see a lot of that in the earthly realms. It's not just going to be energetic. It's not just going to it's not going to be isolated to energy. It is going to be manifest here in the third dimension, particularly in the second half of the year. And that first half is going to be all about forward motion. So just be brave, take on your hero's journey, take the first step, be your brightest, darkest, biggest self, because 2024 wants to see them really badly.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Caitlyn. And please let us know where we can find you, how we can work with you.
Yeah. So you guys can always find me on my website, Ninth House Rising. It's nine, like the number nine, ninthhouserising.com. I'm also on Instagram at Ninth House Rising. I'm very inconsistent about posting because I'm a Sagittarius rising. So for all of you that know what that entails, I am just all over the place. I like leave my phone for days at a time and then can have to be on my phone for 24 hours. So it's a little bit of a whirlwind, but would love to see you all there. I always like to post from some of my other teachers and other things that I find to be really interesting. And you can book sessions with me through my website.
Yes, and you have a discount code for us.
I do, yes,
Yes.
listeners of Lauren and Rashida, or better said, friends of Lauren and Rashida. I have a discount code in there for the first few months of 2024. Y'all can get $50 off my soul activation reading, which is a deep dive into your natal chart and messages from your celestial teams on what's coming for you. We talk about the three kind of biggest topics that are really ruling your mind space here in the third dimension and what those look like. And so you can get $50 off that soul activation reading. I believe it's just spiritual 50. I'm sure Lauren and Rashida are organized enough. They'll have it all in the notes, but yeah, $50 off one of those soul activation readings.
Yes, we'll have the link and the discount code in the show notes. And thank you so much for your generosity and for sharing that. Everyone, go book your readings. And Caitlyn, we just have one last question for you. Will you be our bestie?
Of course I will. We're already besties, girls. Don't worry. It's my pleasure.
We are members of the Coven of the Sun together, so we're already besties. All right,
That's
loves.
right.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to this year now. And Caitlyn, I just honor you and your wisdom, and thank you for sharing your guidance with us and your wisdom. And thanks to your guides too for coming through and providing support. So Rashida, thank you for leading with curiosity as always. And I love you. And I just want to say Rashida showed up today despite like sickness in the family and her kid getting hurt and so much. And she's always just an amazing like nurturer and listener, and always brings her energy in an authentic way. So much appreciated. And we love you,
Thank you, Lauren.
besties. Yes.
Love you.
Happy
Bye.
2024.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us for this incredible episode. If you loved it, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tell all your besties about us.
You can also connect with us on Instagram at Your Spiritual Besties Podcast. And be sure to say hello and share your thoughts about the episode. Love you, bestie. Talk soon.